Megaesophagus. A year and a half ago, our dog. Our dog was diagnosed with Megaesophagus because he was throwing up and puking and aspirating, and he had pneumonia, and we had to rush him to the emergency vet, and we were scared and we were crying and we thought he was going to die. Because he's an old dog and he's 12. Mickey, he's a good boy. He's a Lhasa Apso. And the veterinarian told us that he had the final stages of Megaesophagus, and then he had about 3 months to live. So we went home. Hello.
Hi.
We went home and we held our dog and we cried, and it was very stressful, and we got this Bailey chair. We're actually on our way to Chicago. We live in Michigan. We're on a little vacation. We got the DIY Bailey chair, and I'll put a link in the description below this video if you have a dog that has Megaesophagus and you want to make a chair. We made that homemade. I'll show you how to do it. But anyways, the point of this video is that it's a year and a half later, and he was diagnosed given 3 months. And the power of unconditional love. We love our dog so much. We make sure we put him in the chair every single time he eats or drinks. And we also feel very lucky that the Megaesophagus, gets bad, but then it goes up and down. And we feel lucky and very grateful, but at the same time, it's just to encourage you. That's the whole point of this video, that if you feel like your dog has, a death sentence, I know that sounds kind of harsh. In our scenario, we thought that for sure, and we immediately took action, and we didn't accept it. And it's been a year and a half, and he seems fine. He's a good boy, but he does have his moments. Do you have anything you want to say?
Very close to my face.
Okay. Just talk loud and stare at the road. How about
Keith, that's all. You said it best.
There you go. I said it best. She's driving. I shouldn't make her do that while she's driving anyway. So.
Because this phone will in front of me.
Okay. You a good boy? He's a good boy? He's a good boy. Oh, one other thing. We were thinking about Megaesophagus, and so whenever we let our dog outside or we walk him, we put him on a full harness, not like a collar, because a dog will run and then like choke themselves out. We started thinking about that because before we started putting him on a harness, one time he ran after like a squirrel and he choked himself. And we started thinking, what about dog groomers? What if he was ever at a dog groomer, in the past, where maybe he fell off the thing and he choked himself? Because if you look at certain like big chain dog groomers, they just put a leash on the dog, and then if it's not secured tight enough to where they can slip off of the table, they could actually fall and hang there and choke themselves. Do you think that could cause it? But from what I'm studying, Megaesophagus is a paralyzation of the actual sphincter that's down inside at the bottom of the esophagus to the opening of the stomach. That sphincter doesn't open and close properly because it's paralyzed, so therefore the food gets stuck in the esophagus because it won't open and let the food eject out of the esophagus and import into the stomach. That's why it's pooling up.
Yeah, but the esophagus is enlarged, Keith. So what happens is that the food, the esophagus is paralyzed. So the food will start backing up in the esophagus and it'll stretch it out to the point of no return. And that's what happens. Miko's esophagus is big.
Megaesophagus.
Yes, his esophagus is stretched out. So the sphincter, that's a whole nother condition if it doesn't open and close. But he seems to have a problem with it just making it down to his stomach. Because if he doesn't go in his chair, it comes right up.
So doesn't that sound like an effect, though? Because if you look at the causality...
I mean, it could be from him being on a leash and pulling and tugging and all of those years. Because people, I mean, you can say, like, blame the dog owner or not, but most people, when they get a dog, they get a collar and a leash. When I got Miko, I was 19 years old. It was my first dog of my own. Like, my family always had dogs. And I got him a leash and collar. Now, when I started taking him to parks and stuff like that, that's when he would do like the running after things, and then he would choke himself, and there was a lot of times where that happened. And then it finally got to the point where I'm like, he's got to go on a harness, because if at least it will jolt his body and not his neck, so I switched over to the harness. But by that time, it could be too late. So my question is the Megaesophagus caused from that? Because all of these people are talking, I know that it's actually hereditary too. They can be born with it, like it could be genetics too, but there's got to be some kind of trauma that's happening to the throat to make this happen. Like, I don't know, and they have no idea why. They don't have a lot of answers yet, but I'm just trying to put the puzzle pieces together. Like, he was the type of dog that would run and choke himself, and then I'd be like, oh my God. And then he also does that thing where he can't breathe and his chest gets all tight and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Maybe it developed on its own. Maybe it happened because of that. But you can't like blame yourself and get down on yourself because you just didn't know. You know what I mean? I never even knew of Megaesophagus before he got diagnosed. I thought he was just sick. And when we went to the first vet, they told us it was a back problem. When he was throwing up every day, he told us it was a back problem, took an x-ray of his back, missed the fact that on the x-ray, missed the fact that his throat was enlarged, or esophagus, and said, oh, look at these little discs in his back. This is what's making him sick. So put him on some special food, Fast forward 3 years, he was still vomiting, and we always thought that it was because his back was in pain. And we take him to the vet again, and they said that he had a mass in his throat. And then took him to another vet, and then that's when they found the Megaesophagus. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Cool. Good stuff. And I want to close with the causality of the sphincter and the paralyzed part of the esophagus. If it's stretched out, well, imagine if you were to take a balloon and close the sphincter, the part where the water comes in and out, and you keep filling it up with water because there's no way it can exit on the other side, right? Say it's got an opening and a closing. If it's pinched, it'll actually keep filling up and stretching out, right? So wouldn't the causality of a stretch out esophagus, it would be the effect of a cause being the sphincter not opening, so therefore the food is piling up and stretching out the esophagus, and that's why the esophagus is stretched out.
But we never did that test though, because they can test for it to see if the sphincter is opening and closing, because sometimes with Mega it will open and close, and sometimes it won't, but his must be permanently open because the food is making it down to his stomach when he stands up.
Okay.
So it's not like it's shut, because if it was shut, then he would need surgery to keep it open. So we could keep him, you know what I mean? But we never did that. We did every test that there was. Every blood test. I spent $1,000 to see if he had other kinds of diseases. We spent more than $1,000, but it was $1,000 just for those tests to see if it was other diseases that were causing the Megaesophagus, because other diseases can cause Megaesophagus too. The muscle disease, it could paralyze the esophagus, giving them the Mega, and then that would actually, it's good that he doesn't have those diseases because he isn't deteriorating. He's healthy. He just has to go up. So he actually got lucky in his condition. But if it doesn't open it, or they put a scope down the esophagus to see the sphincter, and that test is like $1,200 to do that, because he has to go see a specialist. And I mean, to me, I feel like we kind of figured out what was going on with him. We're managing it. Why spend the money now? You know, we already kind of know what's going on with him. Like, that test is just going to tell us if it's opening and closing, and it's not going to make a difference anyways, because he's already eating upright anyway. So there's certain times where you know, in certain situations, save your money and just kind of make sure they're going up. I don't know. You can't dwell on if, you know, what caused it and all that stuff. You just have to try to manage it to keep them alive, you know. And a lot of people that don't know about the condition, they'll see like a dog in the Bailey chair and they'll be like, oh, come on, why are you doing that to your dog? Poor dog. You know, dogs are meant to eat on the ground and not in a chair, like, you know, and they don't understand that chair is actually saving their life. And
that's one other mistake. If you think your dog's getting better and you think you don't have to put him in the chair, that's totally wrong. Because with Megaesophagus, sometimes it cures themselves, but like with Miko's condition, it will forever be, his esophagus is so stretched out that that it won't ever go back. It's permanently. So you can't just like put him in the chair for a month or two and then think, you know, oh, you know, he's better now, because it will start all over again. Then you're going to run the risk of him getting the aspiration pneumonia, because he's going to be vomiting again. And then, you know, the more times they get pneumonia, and then they have to be put on the antibiotic, then they become immune to the antibiotic, and then the antibiotic just won't work, and the pneumonia will actually end up killing them. Not the condition, but it's the pneumonia that develops. So you have to be very careful and try to keep them from aspirating, because that's what will kill them, is the aspiration. So, you know, you just have to stay positive. You know, there's the neck hugs that you can put on them, because in the middle of the night, you know, all that saliva will pool up in their esophagus. So some dogs, you know, if they have it really, really bad, they have to wear like a neck hug at night to keep it from, you know. And then sometimes in the morning, you know, right when we wake up, I make sure that we get him fed, because that way he can eat and be in his chair. So that way the saliva from the nighttime will go down too with the food. So, or pick them up for a couple minutes, like when you wake up in the morning, pick them up, keep them upright, and then that will help it not to come up from the nighttime. I also know that like a bed that has like a tube around, like a ring, are better, because I noticed that Miko will put his head up on the ledge. Like he knows, like, I think once you get them in the groove of going upright after they eat or drink, they understand that, okay, well, I can feel it in my throat, but if mommy and daddy pick me up, then it's not gonna, you know, it's gonna feel better and it's gonna go down to my tummy. I'm not gonna get sick. So every time he drinks water, he literally comes up to me and stares at me like, I just drank water, Mom, pick me up. Or like, you know, if he goes and gets into it and I didn't know about it, he'll come up to me, and the baby's. Well, she's puking. She pukes, so because we were driving, she does it every time. It's okay.
And then,
it's okay. Oh, yeah. All right, we gotta go.